Hi everyone, welcome to my live session today. Today I have with me a very dear mama friend of mine, Melissa, who will be talking to us about homeschooling and the pandemic. So it's not only about homeschooling, it's also about how we are handling some of us, our children at home, and how to get into homeschooling for those who want to go into it for the rest of, not only for the pandemic, but for the rest of their schooling life. So hang on, just give me a minute. Let me just add her in. Hi.
Hi, Rakhee. Hello.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh gosh, I miss your face. I miss that beautiful smile of yours.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to have been asked. Can you see me and hear me clearly, though?
No worries. I mean, it's a little bit soft. Maybe you might want to go closer to the microphone if you have, or if you have earphones, maybe that would help.
Okay, let me go get them.
Can you actually find? I mean, if
Yeah.
just say something, maybe I'll start off with okay, so I have with me Melissa, who is a very dear mama friend of mine. I met her a couple of months, it's not even
Yeah.
been a year, and I feel like I've known her for ages. So she is one of those courageous moms, I would say, who's been homeschooling her two beautiful kids. So homeschooling is a very, it's like a jargon to me. Like, I'm like, homeschooling, are you crazy? Just send them to the
Yeah.
teacher. So for me, there was a lot of new, it was a whole new world of information out there for me. So I thought, what better to get her on board and tell us all about
Great.
homeschooling. So Melissa, would you like to just introduce
Okay,
yourself?
I have two children. They are 12 and 9 years old this year. So I was working in a GLC prior to having children and quit when my oldest was born. So I have been homeschooling for about, so both kids did about a year of kindy, and after which I took it from there. So I taught them to read and write and all of the stuff. And my daughter did do a year in a private center, but in the end she opted to be homeschooled again. So since then we've been homeschooling since before the pandemic. Yeah, now it seems like everyone's
Wow.
doing
So
it.
how many years is that? So maybe about 5, 6 years you've been homeschooling?
Well, my daughter was did kindy at say 4 years old, so about 7 years.
7 years. Wow, amazing, amazing. I'm doing it since the pandemic has started. Not really doing it, but oh my God, it's so stressful to me.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us what homeschooling is all about? What is homeschooling?
Okay, so these days, I think the term homeschooling can be a bit confusing. Like I hear the word homeschooling being used to describe centers. A lot of centers are called homeschooling centers. But what they are actually is a
Yes.
learning center. So kind of like a small private school,
Yes.
and they are mushrooming everywhere. My
Yeah.
daughter herself was in one of them. So those are actually, those
Okay.
function like a tuition center of sorts. The hours are fixed, I think 8 to 2 or 8 to 3, and you have a syllabus. You have teachers coming in and
Okay.
out. So those are normal schools, privately run, and usually smaller
Okay.
size classrooms. Maybe you might even have 5 in a class, which is why some parents prefer to
Okay.
send their children there. What I do is really traditional
Okay.
homeschooling. So the children are at home, and
Okay.
the
All right.
parent or one or both parents are the teachers, or there are various ways to do it, but generally the parent takes charge of the child's education and the child's learning.
Okay. So what's the difference between co-opted learning and unschooling? There's these
Okay,
new
so many,
terminologies that
yeah,
we've come across. What?
so many terms. So my understanding of unschooling is when parents teach their children through life lessons, just learning through life without actually using like a syllabus or a parent's guide, like, for instance, you bake a cake and you're learning maths, you're learning how to measure, you're learning, yeah, you help your dad repair his car, you're learning about mechanics and, some engineering. Or you watch,
Mechanics.
you go catch tadpoles in a
Okay.
longkang and you watch it grow. That's the life cycle of a frog, So parents would
Yeah.
not want to be bound by a syllabus. And so they just learn, in a very fun and
Okay.
natural way, very child-led, So that is unschooling. I know people who do it
Okay.
and do it very well and they enjoy it. Co-opted learning, the other thing you
Okay.
mentioned, I think maybe you're referring to something that is quite popular among homeschoolers called cooperatives. So co-op for short. A
Yes.
co-op is where,
Yeah.
a cooperative is where parents, homeschooling parents get together. So usually these are parents who live in, like in the same area. Oh, sorry, my dog. So parents who live in the same area or who have kids around the same ages and have similar interests.
Okay.
So these kids, these parents get together,
Okay.
like they meet weekly. So this is pre-COVID, yeah. This is pre-MCO. So we meet
Yeah.
weekly, maybe we take turns
Of
going to
course.
each other's houses, or we might meet outside, outdoors,
Okay.
and we take turns teaching the children. Or we could even get a tutor to come in and
Okay.
teach our children. So it's very like
Okay.
very learning in a group kind of thing, like group learning, but parents of course drive and send and sometimes even teach. Like my daughter, for instance, is part of a science co-op, which is now of course moved to Zoom. But before
Okay.
COVID, 3 other girls her age used to come here every week, and my husband, who is in a science background, he does it for a living as well, teaches physics and chemistry. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah,
definitely
it's very
helpful. Oh, it's more pooling resources together, and
absolutely.
if you have like your husband who's a science teacher, then maybe a couple of kids can come to your house and learn science from him. I mean, and maybe if you do maths, then a couple of
Yeah,
kids do maths with you. So
yeah.
something
Because
like
the
that. Oh, that's
parents
an
are all
interesting
from
concept.
diverse
Very
backgrounds. Yeah,
community-based concept,
parents are
I
from
would say.
diverse backgrounds and work in different industries. So we sort of
Yeah.
pick each other's brains and
Yeah.
use each other's talents and skills, And the
Yes.
children are learning learning from the horse's
Excellent.
mouth, right? From the direct source. So it's also, yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does someone register to start homeschooling? How do we register? What do
You
we do?
can register for permission to homeschool your children. I think the Ministry of Education, if you go to their website, there is a way you can apply. And based on, from my understanding,
Okay.
it's based on your circumstances. If you're special needs child, special
Okay.
education, or if you're moving school, moving country, they may or
Okay.
may not consider your request. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's just some forms
Yes.
to fill out, and the website for Ministry of Education has
Yes.
all of these to register them. Excellent, excellent. So what about choices of syllabus out there? I mean, I spoke to you, I remember a couple of
Yeah.
months ago about this, and I was just overwhelmed with the amount
I
of
am too.
information and
Yeah.
syllabus out there. What do you, what do you want? What do you want to tell us
Okay.
about maybe the most commonly used syllabus and maybe the most
there
popular?
is there are so many syllabus, and I can certainly give you a list of what I use and I love, and but bear in mind, though my decisions, like what I decided to buy, I made these decisions when I started my homeschooling my children more than 5 years ago. And since then, so many more new
Okay.
syllabus have come out. So I'm not sure what's the latest and what's good.
Yes.
But what I do want to say, it's a very popular question. Everyone asks me that, what syllabus to use, and it's parents' number one concern.
Yes.
It's for
Yep.
me though. After these few years I've had homeschooling, I think it isn't the biggest deal. You just have to Google and find out what's there, and then pick whichever suits your family's needs. I do want to say, I will answer the question, but I do want to say though that the most important thing, if you decide to homeschool your children, is your why. Why are you doing it? And this is the part people skip, because like so fun to sit down and think about,
Yes.
what is the reason I really want to homeschool? And it has to go beyond, because my child was getting bullied in school. Although these are also some driving factors. It may be a driving factor. Your child was getting bullied in school, or your child really hates school, or, the fees are too expensive. I don't believe in this or that system or whatever. Yes, those may all be your driving factors, but what is your real reason? What do you hope to gain from this? What do you want for your child? What are your dreams for your child? What are your values as a family? I think these things, it's easy to think of them as unnecessary, but it is really the most important thing you can do. So if this is something you're considering, my suggestion is, I urge you, in fact, to sit down as a family, spouses, parents, and then also with your children, and discuss your why, your big why, and try and go as deep as you can. Take your time, pray about it, think about it, sleep over it, and once you know your why, I think that will help you, because the journey of homeschooling is one that is fraught with uncertainty and doubt. In fact, all of
Yes.
parenting is
Yeah.
doubt, right? parents are we're always second guessing ourselves. Are we doing the right thing? So homeschooling
Yeah.
is no different. Your child is
Yeah.
going to be with you all the time. So it's very much like parenting. You are
Yes.
parenting and teaching. So however you choose to do it. So, and if you know your why, even in the hard times when someone asks you, Malaysia is full of concerned neighbors who might ask, hey, how come your kid never go to school? Hey, and then throw a spanner in the works, and all of a sudden you're like, is this the right thing? Am I messing up my child's future? What am I doing? So when those doubts appear, I find myself going back to my why.
Yes.
So that's what I'd like to encourage you to
Yes.
do if you're thinking of homeschooling for the long run. And then, okay, syllabus. So yeah, we can certainly tag the ones I use. I use Sunlight, which is a very popular syllabus. I do want to mention Sunlight is Christian based. Many American homeschooling syllabus are Christian based. However, I know the homeschooling community in KL is multiracial, multi-religious, and
Yes.
you can always get the syllabus minus the Christian-centered books, minus the biblical. Yeah, so I use Sunlight, but only the history and the geography. I also use IXL for math. I use Apologia for sciences. What else I use? Yeah, there's so many. We can tag them in the post, and um,
One of the benefits is you can actually pick and choose, so there are some of us who send our kids to normal private school where you've got to choose IGCSE or IB, right? So in your case, you get to choose different
absolutely.
syllabus for different subjects according to maybe how your child excels in a certain subject. So maybe if he's weaker in maths, you would choose something that would be more creative
Yes.
in learning maths. So that's an interesting way. So that's a good benefit of homeschooling as well.
Like
Yes, and I was under the impression that it was a lot of Christian-based learning, but I've soon grown that it's not really. It all depends on which syllabus that you choose. So
and like
rightly said
exactly
so.
as you pointed out, my son, for instance, learns very differently from his sister. So for him, I've had to get a totally different set of books for maths. They both loved. I do hope for both my kids to sit for the O levels, the IGCSE. That's actually quite easily done. You can just register as a private candidate in one of the private centers or one of the international schools.
Yes.
But for now, for history, and as my daughter may move on, depending on what she wants to learn and what spurs her interest. So I love that flexibility, and the main aim really is you want to create a child who loves to learn. I think learning is lifelong. I myself am I'm studying again. So learning is lifelong, and if you raise a child who loves learning, who is excited about learning and understands that you don't just learn from a textbook. You can learn from another person. You can learn from nature. You can learn from doing things. If your child has that understanding, then you don't have to worry about them. That almost setting them up for life, right? What you don't know, you find a way to know.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about that was actually the reason I wanted to homeschool. I wanted to raise children. I wanted children who learned in a way, I wanted for their education to not be syllabus bound, to not be exam oriented. I wanted them to tap into the part of their nature that we are innate learners. Human beings are innate learners. Learning is in our part of our essence. So I wanted to tap into that, and for them to be curious about life.
But with homeschooling,
sorry, I can talk about this
but with
all day.
homeschooling, how do you ensure that I know. How do you ensure that they get enough peer connection? So one of the reasons I started my kids in kindergarten was because I was worried, oh my God, he's not going to be able to handle another child, or he's not going to be able to handle another person. So how do you ensure peer connection? How do you ensure they are able to, go out in the society after that? Because you said it's just you, your husband, and maybe a couple of other kids, but how do you ensure they get proper social development?
You always
that's
ask
what you want
this,
to call
like,
it.
your kids have friends? Your kids got friends? Your kids got friends?
Yeah.
My kids have friends. They have plenty friends. So I would not have homeschooled if not for the diverse community in the Klang Valley. And even in Penang, Johor, there are many homeschoolers. And like I said, it's multiracial, multi-religious. It's a beautiful One Malaysia community. So and we also have we have our own sports day, again pre-COVID. We have our own annual sports day. We have science fairs, history fairs, World Book Day. You know, we have debate contests, badminton tournaments, swim galas. So all parent driven. Yeah, so the
Wow.
parents get together and organize, and we
Wow.
take turns. I myself have organized a couple of events, you know, and so they have plenty of friends.
I feel like you have a
Yes,
community. You have
yes.
like a community, and that's where your kids learn from other children from the same community. So it's like sort of like a
Yeah,
homeschooling
just like if
community.
you
Oh,
send your
that's
kids to a
interesting. I
school
didn't
and then
know.
you become friends with the other parents. So exactly
Yeah.
like that. And it really depends. Like I know
Yes.
families who are introverted, parents are introverted, and so for them, you know, I just go out once a week and my kid meets their friend, everyone's happy, you know. But for me and my kids, we are more extroverted. We love meeting and going out, you know, with friends and meeting up. So we might go out more often. It really depends on you, you know, how
Okay.
much you want to drive out, for instance, how much mom is willing to drive out or dad is willing to drive out, you know, how many
Yes.
people you're comfortable having in your house.
So
Yeah.
now that you've got connection, you've got a lot of people. So you said you live in a community rather than a home
Yeah.
bubble sort of thing. So what are your thoughts on your homeschooling parents and children? Should they get vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine? I mean, the ones that are above 12 years old, of
Absolutely, I
course.
think so. I know that there is a nervousness about the vaccine. People are unsure because it's something new, and I myself had some doubts in the beginning. But really, it's the best thing we can do to, as a country, for the world to recover and to just get on with it. You know, to go back to somewhat. Yeah. So I think
Yes.
it's important for everyone to do their part. You know. My husband has received his first dose. I had registered but yet to receive mine. But certainly, yeah,
Soon.
I hope so. My grandmother, who's 93 years old, got her vaccination. I'm so proud of her. So, you know, I think certainly,
Yay.
yeah,
Wonderful.
I think we all have to do our part. And the sooner we want to get COVID out of our lives and, you know, move on to some semblance of normal life. My kids are
Yes.
wanting to meet their friends again, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely encourage people to get vaccinated, to register. Yeah.
Because you're not exactly, even if you're homeschooling, you're not exactly like you said, you're not just sitting at home, you're also maybe going to
Yeah.
a friend's house to learn a different subject, or you've got your sports day like you said, so you're almost like a normal school. It's just that within a certain boundary that you want to
Yeah.
agree to, right? So I think having the vaccine would definitely benefit the community of yours, that's for sure. Would you be able to have any sources or maybe websites that we can actually look up more information
I
on?
do want to
Or
mention, I was talking about the community earlier. So we have Facebook groups. You can
yes.
search in Facebook for the
Okay.
Malaysian Homeschooling Tribe, also Malaysian Homeschooling
Okay.
Network. Also, I think
Okay.
this is a page, Learning Beyond Schooling. These are groups and pages that you can search. The admin might ask you some questions. If it's a group, the parents admins might ask you some questions.
Okay.
And do not homeschool in isolation. You know, then yeah, no one wants
Absolutely.
to feel alone, and your kids, you know, it's difficult. So try and find your community. Some of the closest friends I've made, I met while we were at, say, the science center on a weekday, and I meet another mom and her kids, and I'm like, they must be homeschoolers because the kids are not in school or no. So, you know, and then we get to talking, and so yeah, be open. It's not as we are not as weird as you as you may have heard. You know, I assure you, we're all normal people.
So you're not a bunch of hippies just, sitting down in the
How I
sun.
wish.
Oh, look at the bird flying. No, you do learn
Yes.
something. So this is really reassuring, So coming from a very rigid background where all of us grew up, sekolah kebangsaan, you go to normal public schools, then you go to sekolah menengah, and then you just move on. You just have to follow it, standard 1, standard 2, standard 3. So getting this concept of homeschooling, and like you mentioned, all the other various methods of learning,
Yeah.
co-opted, home-based, center-based, unschooling, which is, wow, really, it's a lot of new methods that our children can grow up with, learning things in a way that they feel comfortable learning, not an
Yes.
exam-oriented way of learning. So I think this is really good. I'm so happy we had this
Yeah.
conversation today, Melissa.
I
will
also want to
do
add,
PM
if I
me
may,
all the
Rakhee,
information, and I will.
that there are
Yep.
there are
Yes.
many homeschoolers that have even gone on to universities and are working now. You know, homeschoolers that have decided. There are also some that
Absolutely.
decided, okay, uni is not for me. I want to start a business, and then doing very well in that. You know, so
Yes.
yeah, don't. A lot of
Yes.
parents worry
Yeah.
that, oh, will my kids get to go to uni? Absolutely, it's been done. done. Many kids who have gone to even
Yeah.
Ivy League universities, if that's the way you want to go. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a matter of what exam that you're going to take at the end. If you plan to go university and the university recognizes an O
Yes.
levels, for instance, or whatever final exam, just sit for that as a private candidate. And I think it shouldn't be a problem getting into any university depending
Yes.
on your results. So throughout, I don't think you need to be stressed. Like we had UPSR, PMR,
I
SPM,
remember.
you know, there's just non-stop exams, you know, and then twice a year, you know, did you get 10 A's or did you get 9 A's? You know, why was there
Oh
a day
boy.
minus? You know, especially being Indian, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like you gotta beat it. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Where is the A's, you know? So, or else here we're like, oh, so as long as you understand the whole concept of
Yeah.
learning, I think it's really good. So I whatever information that you have, if you want me to just tag it along, I will tag it together with
Sure.
this post. So anybody who listens to this post later on will be able to just look at the bottom of it, and I'll be able
Great.
to
Absolutely.
put the
Yes.
information there as well.
Thank
Thank you
you. Thank you
so
for
much,
having me,
Melissa.
Rakhee.
This has been absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so
You too.
nice to
I hope
see
we
you
can meet in
again. I can't
person
wait for
soon.
our sessions once again, our nice dinners.
You take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.